And we're back once again, only on it's Last Call. Last Call to the Alcohol, only on the lastcallpodcast.com. And joining me here on location once again, we always love having him on the show because he will tell like he sees it. He has no problems going after referees, fighters, giving props, giving scoldings if he needs to, and he loves dropping the F bomb, just like Alice Pereira did last night. I give you once again the man, the myth, the legend. I give you it is Marcel Dorff. So, Marcel, let's start off here with it was UFC Fight Night Vegas, and let's start off with the main event. It was Renato Moicano bloodying and choking out Chris Duncan in a submission round two submission choke. Wow, I did not have that on the bingo card. I thought this was going to be a competitive fight, and Moicano basically just showed us he still has a lot left in the gas tank.
Yeah, by the way, thanks for having me. Yeah, I feel the same way. I picked Duncan last week. One of my worst picks on this card, by the way. But yeah, boy, kind of looked good, man. From the start of it, I thought the first round kind of looked like a soft sparring match between two teammates. But when he finally was able to tag Duncan, he also got him to the ground at the same time, and he choked him out, man. I mean, really impressive showing from Moicano, I think, and the showing he needed, after two losses in a row. Yeah, very good win against his teammate. Remains number 10 in the division. So yeah, overall a pretty good showing by Renato Moicano, man.
Should that fight have been made in the first place? I mean, we talk about teammates, and I know in the past it was the golden rule was teammates don't fight teammates. Like American Kickboxing Academy was notorious for that. Should that have been a thing here, or with an American top team, is it just there's too many fighters they can't do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind if they do or if they don't, but yeah, it kind of feels like now it's like how do you say that? It really looked like in the first round there were two teammates, but then afterwards he got the finish, so cannot say too much about it. And I mean, it's nice for Duncan. He got an opportunity to get in the top 15, and then it has to be Moicano. It is what it is, man. I mean, we're gonna see also Dawson against Rabeski soon. And there's also two teammates, so yeah, it happens.
So Moicano's an interesting story. Like, where does he go from now? Because we know it's sort of like he's in that 10-ish realm. Like he's not going to beat the elite guys. Like, for example, he already took on the champ Islam Makhachev. That didn't work out. He took on Benito Dariush. That didn't work out. He can still beat good fighters. So I'm looking around here. I mean, do you put him against maybe? No, it's Farat Ziam seems to be like, all right, it's a perfect little matchup between these two.
Yeah, I know Faraz Yama's booked, so that's not going to happen. Um, I cannot say against who. I can tell you off the record, but not on the record. But he's booked. So I think Moicano. I think he said in the post fight on Paramount, he was like he's interested to fight either like Pimblet, Hooker. Even the rematch with BSD would interest him. I would be fine with it. The Pimblet fight makes sense to me. The Hooker fight makes sense to me. I mean, why not? I wouldn't have a problem with any of these two fights.
Do you give Max Holloway?
No, I wouldn't give him Max Holloway. I mean, Max Holloway is a little bit further from him, so at this moment, in my opinion. So I wouldn't give him Max Holloway, but maybe if he beats Hooker or Pimblet, I would think about it, but right now, not.
Meanwhile, Chris Duncan, like, what do we do? Where does he go? Because again, it's like just when you think he's going to crack the top 15, he just comes up short. And so I mean, is this his ceiling? Should he drop down to featherweight, or it's like, what would if you are managing Chris Duncan? What's his next option?
I mean, maybe it's a bad night at the office. We don't know. We'll see in this next fight. But the thing is, like, he didn't have a lot from Moicano, so he needs to build himself back up, probably. And the thing is with Duncan, I really like the guy, but he has overcome some adversity and also in all other fights as well. There's a Terrence McKinney fight, the Blagioki fight. So, I mean, we'll see. Maybe it's just like it's like how do you say that? This is ceiling, man, just outside top 15, but we don't know. So we'll see what next for him. He probably doesn't get somebody in the ranking now next, and that makes sense that he doesn't get that. But we'll see, man. I think Duncan ain't that bad, but he just had a really bad showing last night.
Speaking of a good showing, Verna Jandiroba had a great showing, dominating Tabitha Ricci by unanimous decision. Looked sharp on her feet, didn't give up, any real big takedowns or was never really threatened with submissions. She wants Mackenzie Dern, but that feels like that boat sort of sailed for now. She finds herself, oh, like, she still is in that top five. So, what did you think of the performance, and where do you have her in terms of your rankings?
I thought it was pretty clear win for her. She won 1 and 2. A lot of people were like 50-50 in round three. I also think she won round three. So for me, it was pretty good showing. Too bad for Dana. He obviously hoped that Tabata was going to win here. But yeah, I mean, Verna looked good. I think she probably wins. She fights the winner of Suarez against Lupi next week. I think that makes sense. I don't think the UFC wants her to fight for a title next again. They should maybe book that Mackenzie Dern Zhang Weili fight. I also was thinking about maybe Verna Jandiroba, Jillian Robertson makes sense. But if Verna wins that fight, then you lose Jillian as a contender, and I don't know if the UFC wants to do that. So, yeah, I mean, also I gotta mention this, man. I got really annoyed by the UFC by pushing Callum Walsh in their faces the whole damn time. I mean, I know he's dating Tabitha Ricci, and they want to make it like the power couple or whatever. I mean, listen, it doesn't mean that if MMA fans watch the UFC, they also care about boxing and they care about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or fucking power slap. So stop that shit by pushing other sports in our faces because he's your love baby, Dana White. But
I hate
I
to see what
mean,
happens when WWE invades. You'll go nuclear.
yeah,
How dare
yeah,
you, Ray Ripley?
one
You
hundred
cannot
percent, dude,
stop
100%.
screaming.
I get mad. I'm telling you, man. I'm like, it's different sports, for different people. There are some people who like both. That's okay. But stop pushing certain stuff on us. Also, like, I don't know if you saw the April Fool's prank the UFC tried to pull with putting Callum Walsh in the UFC trunks and gear. I was like, he's gonna make his UFC debut, and nobody caught on to it because nobody gave a fuck. But it was an April Fool's prank. But yeah, I mean, it's like Dana wants to push this guy so badly to everybody. Listen, if he's that good, we will see him fight for amazing fights, if he is that good. But stop pushing a guy who is another sport into an MMA. I probably, if Tabata Ricci hears this or Callum Walsh hears this, they think I'm a huge hater. I'm not. I wish Callum Walsh all the best in the boxing, but I'm just not interested in the guy to see him the whole damn time during an MMA event.
All right, so where does Tabitha Ricci go? Because again, she only lost to maybe the second or third best woman of the division. I mean, do you
Mhm.
match her up with Jan Josian next? Do you put her in with maybe Jessica Andrade? Like, where do you? I guess for Tabitha Ricci, like, what's a good bounce back for her?
I mean, she already lost to Janssen now, right? So I don't think we should do that fight. But maybe against Lupi Godinez, if Lupi doesn't win against Suarez or if against Suarez, if Suarez loses to Lupi, why not make that fight? Keep each other busy, I would say.
Well, before these two, we had a hunter become the hunter. That's right. Abdul Yakov submitting Brinson Ribeiro. First round rear naked choke. He's slowly starting to go like, okay, you gotta watch out. This guy's gonna make noise. He is a threat at 205, and especially though 205 it's wide open. Were you impressed, or was this expected in your eyes?
To be really honest, I was not impressed, and I will tell you why. So this guy was a massive favorite over Branson Ribeiro, a massive favorite, and he got staggered early on in the fight, until he got him to the ground and he submitted him, and it was pretty easy for him to beat him on the ground. And but I wasn't impressed by his showing at all, to be really honest. And I mean, that says a lot because there's a lot of hype with this guy, and rightly so, because he has looked great so far in the UFC. And again, first round finish. So what can you say? But I wasn't as impressed as I was in this last two fights for the Contender Series and for his UFC debut. A great finish, but I didn't think the fight was amazing that he showed. So I wonder what they're gonna do with him next. He's one of these. these higher level talents at 205 alongside Ivo Baraneski. You know, that's interesting. But man, if he's fighting the better opposition, I want to see if he still does so well because Branson Ribeiro tagged him early on in the fight. You know.
Well, I'm thinking here, and I know they might probably won't do this because they want to want to protect both guys. But how about Abdul Yakov versus Umar Sy next?
Oh yeah, why not? You know, I think Umar Sy um, has showed so far in the beginning that he was decent, but I don't really see him as a big prospect to be really honest right now. You know, and Yakyaev is the only possibility there is that Umar Sy takes all the hype from Yakyaev, but Yakyaev, if he's like that much of a talent, he should be able to beat Umar Sy, I think. So yeah, I would be good with that fight. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Well, a guy who you've been high on for a bit, and we're gonna get to this guy because this knee is just breathtaking. That is Tommy McMillan, undefeated still. Yes, I know it was a cupcake, and yes, I know you were whispering in my ear last after we were going off the show. Dana White privilege, Dana White privilege. Still, that was a pretty fun fight. First, let's talk about the big hubbub. Did McMillan versus Manolo Zucchini deserve, fight of a night?
An absolutely disgusting pick for fight of the night. I mean, if you have fights like a Dakota Hope against Kai Kamaka 3, you have Trey Shankar, Azamat Bakoyev, you have Jose Delano against Robert Ruchala on your card, and you come to this fight with a fight of the night, it's fucking pathetic from the UFC, and it's clearly biased. You know what I mean? So, I mean, was it a good finish for Tommy McMillan? Of course it was, you know. But this fight, just like the Yakayev Branson Ribeiro fight, was made for him to shine, you know, and for Yakayev to shine. And he did. Cecchini, I have nothing against the guy. He's Italian. He does his work. He does his best, you know. But at the same time, he fought like probably how the UFC wanted him to fight, like a crazy guy, you know, against McMillan. And McMillan was able to, even with the hands down, stop it, you know. So how the hell is that a fight of the night? It's just it really pissed me off last night. I wasn't the only one who was pissed off with that, you know. It's just then listen, then gave him performance of the night at least. Now you're giving 100. Listen, I want fighters to earn as much as possible. Don't get me wrong, but how can you say let's give 100K to Manolo Zucchini, but let's not give 100K to Ethan Ewing or to Trey Shangor or to Kai Kamaka or Dakota Hope? How? I mean, Ethan Ewing got robbed in broad daylight, same as Gore. Those two deserve both the bonuses, and they didn't get it. They got the 25K instead. You know, they should have given 25K to Tommy McMillan.
I miss this after a couple of days. I'm like, I need somebody to just drop some F bombs and cursing and go after people, and that's why I bring Marcel in. So, how good is Tommy McMillan? We're still trying to figure that out. He looks the part. 28
I,
years old, from Great Falls, Montana. I mean, that was a beautiful knee. But as you said, it's like, okay, great. You beat up a guy that,
the, Tommy McMillan got like the Michael Page road that he got in Bellator here by the UFC. You know, he looked amazing against a guy who was not on his level. You know, believe me, man. Listen, I sound like a fucking hater. I'm not, but I'll fade this guy against every uh how these decent fighter in the division. You know, because this guy has no how do you say that? No defense, pretty much all offense. I mean, he's talking about a title in 2027. I mean, I'd be super surprised if he even reaches top 15, to be honest. But maybe the UFC is going to slow roll him like they did with Paddy Pimblett, you know, like they did with Sean O'Malley. And then when he somehow comes into the top 15, you know, they give him immediately a shot against somebody number two or number one. And then he wins somehow a split decision, you know, and then he somehow fights for the title. You know how the UFC always does that. But no, to be really honest, I think he had a great performance against Sakini, but it was a tailor-made matchup for him, you know, and that the UFC gives him 100K. And also Sakini for that fight, come on.
well, this is your binky. This is the new Marcel Dorff certified approved badass. Because I know that you were hyping this guy before the fight card. You were telling me, hey, don't sleep on Ethan Ewing. He went out there and for 3 rounds beat Rafael Estevam like he stole something from him. Ewing once again collects another prospect scalp, the Professor Finesser, and I gotta say he has some badass heavy hands. That liver shot was just, oh, that was nasty.
Man, I enjoyed that fight so much, because like, listen, Ewing, he came in the UFC as a pretty much unknown guy from Uriah Faber's A1 Combat, fought Malcolm Wellmaker on short notice, beat him against all odds. Then he has to fight Estevam now. Estevam comes from flyweight, misses weight even at bantamweight, fight is still on. Uh, and Ewing just pretty much stuffed all his takedowns and he beats him up on the feet. And to put an exclamation point on it, he drops him with a body shot. I mean, can't get any more sweeter to win like that. Apparently not by the UFC, by not giving this guy the 100K bonus, but this was probably like performance of the night, in my opinion. One of the big performances of the night, in my opinion. Dude looked amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you also enjoyed watching that.
So yeah, I'm gonna throw this out there because I know people are gonna have to go, oh my God, you want him to get to fail, but does he deserve a big step up now? Like I'm thinking Farid Basharat, maybe Rob Font, maybe even Vinicius Oliveira. I mean, when you look at Ethan Ewing, is it time for us to go, hey, this guy could be a player very quickly at bantamweight top 15?
I mean, I was talking to Adam about it, and Adam was like, dude, imagine they match him up with Davis and Figueiredo. Who do you pick? Imagine him matching him up with Marlon Vera. Who do you pick? You know what I mean? And I agree. I agree. Who would you pick? Um, yeah, I mean, I think he deserves a step up. I don't know what kind of step up they're going to give him, but he definitely deserves it, in my opinion.
Meanwhile, another prospect bites the dust, and you had to figure the UFC is absolute bullshit with Rafael Estevam. It's like, okay, hey, we're setting you up here. We want you to win. Oh, by the way, you came in heavy, you son of a. Especially for this is the third time he's missed weight. So is he in danger of being cut just for the UFC to show, hey, we take this seriously when guys can't make their friggin' weight?
I think he has to be worried about it for sure, definitely because he didn't make weight and his showing was also not good. And he already missed weight at flyweight. Now he's going to bantamweight. But the difference was at flyweight, he was able to bully his opponent with his physique, hold him down and get the win. At bantamweight, he is not able to do that, and Ewing pieced him up. So listen, I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC parts ways with him. You know what I mean? So I hope for him not, but I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Because listen, what guy are you gonna do? You let another guy fight who is on a good streak, and he might lose to him. He misses weight again. I mean, there's no upside for that for the UFC. So I wouldn't surprise if they do that.
Well, this fight, a lot of people thought should have been well gone one way or the other. So I want your opinion because we were talking about this off air, but last week. Hey, this is going to be a big fight for Rivaka. This is sorry if I'm screwing up his name, but you have Jose Jose Delano versus Robert Ruchala. Hey, this should be a Ruchala win. He's now dropped to 11-3. Delano looked pretty good. I know that you and I are both digging the mustache. Like, goddamn, why couldn't we have a mustache like that? But on a serious note, like, is this the last fight we see Robert Ruchala in the UFC?
I think Rochala gets one more, man, to be really honest. If you look at who he fought William Gomes in his debut, now Zay Delano. It's like those are pretty decent fighters in the division. And I know that Delano is his debut, but he was favored going into this fight, and rightfully so, in my opinion. And also take in mind that Rochala is managed by Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So she was also cage side. I'm pretty sure she will do a good work for him at the UFC brass, and he gets another one, maybe in Europe next, when they come back to Paris or something. He gets another one. But I mean, there is no shame to lose to Jose Delano and to William Gomis. Those are tough fights, and I think it was pretty competitive. Definitely the first round, but overall, Jose Delano did better, and he looked really good. I think Richala is not bad at all. He just has a tough start in the UFC, being 0-2. But good for him. He's probably not on the same contract as Patchy Mix was, so I think he will definitely get a third fight. I would be surprised if they cut him with 0-2 because he didn't look bad or anything. He just fought good competition, in my opinion.
So Jose Delano's a bit of an older guy. He's 29 years old. He's not,
Hmm.
like a young kid. So do you push him quickly, like David Onama or Josh Emmett versus Jose Delano? Is that feasible?
Um, I prefer to give him one more outside the rankings before going inside the rankings because this is just one fight, right? I think give him another one outside the rankings. I don't know who you can give him, but I would definitely do that. I wouldn't go immediately rankings, in my opinion. I think that's a little bit too quick.
All right, now this was beauty. And I even could hear you tearing up and clapping, going, "That's my girl. Look at her. That is pride, leveled knee." As Alice Pereira just knocked out Haley Cowan cold and then went on in her post-fight match to drop some F-bombs. I mean, if you were, I could see you would be, beaming like a proud papa going, "Yes, that's how I want my fighters to knock MFers out with knees and then drop F bombs." Should we now be impressed with Alice Pereira? Is it now safe to say, okay, she sort of belongs in the UFC?
I mean, this was an amazing knockout, don't get me wrong. But I still think she's very young, man, and very inexperienced. So I don't know, man, how she fares against the better competition in the UFC. I felt like first round she did really good. She damaged Haley Cohen with a lot of strikes. Second round, Haley got her to the ground, and she had nothing for Haley on the ground until she was able to stand up. And Haley went toe to toe with her, and she got kneed in the head, and it was over. I felt like it was a really bad fight IQ by Haley, but perfectly done and perfectly shown by Alice Pereira. Yeah, I also had to laugh about the post fight, the in cage interview, obviously as well. I think she learned her English from her boyfriend Carlos Felipe, who was also a former UFC fighter, because he was always just screaming in the camera like motherfucker and fuck and that kind of stuff. So but yeah, I mean, good win for her, and good for her to get the first win under her belt in the UFC. So, and for her, a deserved bonus, I think. I mean, this was a spectacular knockout, so I have no problem with her getting the bonus at all.
So what do they do with her then? Because as you said, she's still young.
Very difficult.
Yeah,
Very
and
difficult.
135 is very bleak. So,
Hmm.
I mean, two more wins, and all of a sudden you can go, "Oh yeah, she deserves a top 10 fight." You and I are both like, let's hold
Yeah,
off
this,
on that." So, do they almost like bring in more like competition, sort of like Haley Cowan, and just feed her?
yeah, you would think that almost because I feel like a lot of these girls in the division, they're maybe not that good, but Alice Pereira isn't there yet, in my opinion. She's super young. And she got Montserrat Randon, she lost to her. Now she got Haney Cohen. It's literally like the low tier of the division. You know what I mean? So, um, I'm afraid if they give her a step up, she probably is not able to make it competitive. I think. But at the same time, maybe she is. I have no idea who you can match her up next with. I really don't. I'm happy I'm not the matchmaker there.
Yep, a bit too far. So, let's talk about this kick. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we, Dione Barbosa is because I know we're gonna get into the refereeing in a second here. First, we're big fans of her on the show. Been on the show a couple times. Love her. She's not a dirty fighter, but man, this was bad. And I get it. I don't think she meant to, do this, but the fact she didn't get disqualified, I was shocked. And and even you're like, okay, how the referee's going to screw this one up? And they found a way. So, Marcel, should there have been disqualification in this? Like they have said, all right, look, yeah, you basically knocked her the F out. This is a DQ.
So if you look at it from the kick, the kick is illegal, you know. The kick is the kick to the head. No, it's to the neck, partly how do you say that? Chest, chest and neck. But it's still an illegal kick because you hit the neck, right? The thing is, like, if you look at the replay, and that's just my opinion, I felt like that Gato was overplaying it. You know, she clearly got hit in the neck and in the chest. Don't get me wrong, but after the kick was landed, she just looked like she was still there, and then out of nowhere collapsing. And act like not she don't know where she is. I think that's what the officials saw as well, and that's why they continue the fight. But to be really honest, a kick like that, I think the DQ was the right thing to do, probably, which they didn't. Listen, if you don't do a DQ, you take 2 points and not 1 point, in my opinion. So I felt like Barbosa got lucky there. Overall, she was a better fighter, so she deserved the win. But after that kick, how much value you can add to that fight anymore? You know what I mean? So. Yeah, really weird fight. Obviously, Chris Toyoni was there, so it's always weird then. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, don't think Barbosa is a dirty fighter or whatever. I always liked Dione, so yeah, I think she just made a mistake. The funny thing was, like, when she landed that kick, she was laughing and she was cheering. It's like, do you think you won or something? I don't know. Maybe she thought the fight was stopped, but that was kind of weird. But overall, like, yeah, I mean, just another weird MMA incident, I guess, right?
Like it didn't look good when they're going to almost the officials and Herb Dean's coming over. It's sort of like the Keystone Cops where they're like, oh, they're all get together, go, what are we gonna do? I don't know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm not sure here. What are we gonna do? And I mean, it just doesn't look good when you won't have people who are almost like, well, let's just make up the rules as we go along. Because that's what it felt like. They didn't want to disqualify her, but they want to take away a point. But how many points? And we think this girl's active, but we can't prove it. But she did get kicked right in the neck slash face area. So
Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't help UFC and MMA when they're going, yeah, we have the best professional organization in the world, and their officials are basically sort of making NFL and and European soccer officials look like geniuses.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And this is often a problem, I feel like, But yeah, I'm happy nothing wrong with Gato here, or at least what I know. So yeah, really weird moment in the fight, I think.
Rest of the undercard, we go to Alessandro Costa, left hook bonus knock. He got the 100K bonus TKO left hook to the liver over Stewart. Nicole Costa, a Brazilian who I guess has embraced Mexico. Either way, this is a guy that you look at and at flyweight, he's creeping up to where you're looking, going, all right, hey, he's only lost to the elite Amir Abazi, Steve Esser, Aiden Correa. He might maybe deserve like another, top 15 guy next.
Yeah, difficult. I think he's a pretty good fighter, but he's like really that guy who was around 15 and number 20, I think, You can give him somebody in the rankings, low in the rankings. I don't mind that at all, but I don't know, man. I mean, every time he fights somebody who is like a little bit more, how do you say that? A little bit better, he doesn't really show it. So I don't know, man.
In our heavyweight bout, which it was cratering a bit. I know that you were ready to hate on it. Thomas Peterson defeated Guilherme Pat. First round, Pat basically was walloping Peterson pretty good. Second round, Peterson sort of maybe stole it. Then the third round was just bombs away. Thomas, betraying Peterson, dropping Pat, blooding him up, nearly had him finished. I mean, kudos to the Minnesota native because I thought he was going to lose that fight, and that third round was just him going all out and throwing everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, to be honest, not a great fight, man, but I'm happy for Peterson that he got the win. I really like the guy. To be really honest, I thought it should have been a draw. I had 1-2 for Pat. I had 10-8 for Peterson in the third round. But I'm always happy when it doesn't end in a draw because the UFC doesn't keep a win bonus in their pocket. So I'm happy for Peterson. He got the win. It was a close fight. I don't mind him getting the win. But yeah, I mean, overall, that wasn't the best. That was by far not the best fight on the card, in my opinion. But like I said, happy for Peterson. He won. He's a good dude, very friendly, like a hardworking guy. So I'm happy for him, you know.
With Pat, is this it's the case of a guy who probably needed more seasoning because it's almost like okay, once after the second round he sort of got lost, and I get it. He is a heavyweight, only 6 fights in his career, but when you bring a lot of these guys in, like how tough is it trying to figure out how they're going to do once they get guys who can survive the onslaught after the first round?
Yeah, man, maybe you know, but I mean, yeah, Pat. I mean, he got that win over Alan Fry in his debut. But you see how shallow heavyweight is, man. You know, you got these new guys, and you think like after the first fight, like he's pretty decent, and now he looks like this. So I don't know with heavyweight. I know you love heavyweight. I'm on the opposite side, but
Oh, I know
yeah,
you're still. I know that you have like a 5 page report ready to give to Dana White and also Robert Kennedy Jr. go at the UFC White House going ban heavyweights, no more fatties in the cage. I know you're ready to send that here. I'm trying to block it, but you're gonna get around me. But yes, it was still the third round was worth the whole scrap. But it's a different story, different day. Let's talk about the big upset. Trayshawn Gore. I didn't think he was had snowball's chance in hell of winning. And he just put a beating on Azamat Bekavov. Gets the submission at 327 of the third round. Wow. I did not have that on the bigger card. Good for Gore, who, we gave him a lot of crap, going into this fight, but he looked the part in this fight.
yeah. I mean, Gore looked great in my opinion, you know, and I didn't expect that at all. Bakoyev was a pretty big favorite, but Bakoyev has looked like I mean, not good anymore since his loss to Bulgari. You know, this was his, it should have been his bounce back fight. Was everything but a bounce back fight, and a great finish for him as well for Trey Shangor by the guillotine. So, I mean, great win for him and a very necessary one probably to remain in the UFC. Um, and like I said earlier in the podcast, I think he also got robbed of 100K. I think he should have deserved a bonus.
Now, he also said, in the post-fight press conference, after thanking God, and we saw this a lot in this card, a lot of fighters getting very religious. He also said, but he still believes he's going to win a title here in the UFC. Your reaction to that? Because I know with McMillan, you're like, how dare you, you dirty dog! You're barely a top 15 guy. Don't even talk about title fights. With Gore, was there the same outrage, or are you going, hey, you know what? You go, you do you, buddy. You do you.
The difference is the way people say it, you know. Gore just is like he says like he's confident. He's like, I still think I can win a title here. Do I think it happens? No. But that's what but McMillan is like, yeah, next year I'll be champion, you know. It's a different way of how you say it, in my opinion, you know. I mean, I don't think there's arrogance if it comes to how Gore says it. You know, he's just confident in himself, and it's good. You know, I'm not gonna shit on the fighter for being confident in himself. You know, but guys who are saying like, yeah, next year I'm a champion, you know, you can't give me this guy, I'll beat him easily, you know, it's nothing for me. Something like that is different, you know what I mean? So with Gore, I don't have too much problem with it. Do I think he will be a champion? I don't think he will be, but hey, man, all power to him if he thinks he can be. And let's see how he does next fight. You know, maybe this is like the Trey Gore 2.0. You know, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, but this was a great performance, and I'm happy for him. He's a good dude.
Well, a performance which a lot of people were suspect about. Darius Flowers scoring the trip and getting the TKO via hammer fist against Lando Venata. As online, I basically read that dirty son of a bitch Flowers grabbed the trunks, grabbed everything, pulled down Venata basically by the tights, and yet he still wins and gets a win bonus here. Your thoughts, Marcel, and the referees basically just allowing almost anything goes in that match.
Yeah, it didn't really that bother me that much, to be really honest. And I didn't even really saw it, so maybe that's wrong on my side. So, I think Darius looked pretty decent. I thought Lando looked better in the beginning, you until he got slammed. The moment he got slammed, the fight was pretty much over for Lando because he was like I looked like he broke his rib or he crunched his rib or whatever, you know. So I don't know, but it was a fun fight as far as as long as it lasted, and I mean a good win for Darius Flowers. Finally a win for him in the UFC, man. It took some time, but happy for him. He finally got the win.
In a bit, probably the best heartwarming story, Kai Kamaka, a third, on 5 days' notice, makes his return to the UFC, takes on Dakota Hope. Come from behind, split decision over the undefeated Hope here. You and I have been a longtime fan of his because he just fights. That's all he does. He comes to the ring, he fights, there's no, very humble. How nice was it, seeing him, especially his journey after getting cut by the UFC probably unfairly the first time around, then having to bounce back, go to Bellator, rebuild himself, go to PFL, and now he basically gets back home to the UFC.
Yeah, man, Kai is great, I think. I really liked the guy when I heard that he was re-signed by the UFC. I was super happy to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I've been following Kai for a long time, even before he was in the UFC, when he was in Bellator. Then he came to the UFC, then went back to Bellator, PFL, UFC now again. He's all around good dude, family man as well. I think he has 5 kids, hard worker. And he's always in fun fights, always in scrambles and brawls. He's a fun fighter to watch. I think this should have been fight of the night. And Dakota Hope also looked pretty good. Young guy, short notice fight, debut. Looked pretty good. It was pretty even. Could have gone both ways, in my opinion. But yeah, good to see that Kai is back in the UFC, and good to see that Dakota is in the UFC as well. He deserves it as well.
I want looking back at that fight, how much
Yeah.
if your hope do you take, sort of solace in that? All right, look, you took on a guy who's a veteran, has a gas tank, is used to this kind of thing. Like your next fight, you'll be better because you'll probably have, a full camp. You'll be ready, and you won't have to just, work on 5 days notice and not, maybe be missing out on a gas tank a bit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And he probably goes back to 145, right? So, um, yeah, for sure. He will probably be better with a full camp. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Looking forward to it. I mean, I'm happy he's back in the UFC. Like I said, I think he should have never left the UFC. Yeah, I know he got cut after that, after a certain time, but I don't think he should ever been cut. I always liked the guy, and I'm glad he's back.
Well, let's go to this weekend's upcoming
Yeah.
card. First, the bad news here: Joshua Vane is injured. The fight with Tyro, Tyra is out. How badly does that hurt this card in terms of we were looking for 2 title fights and now we're down to just one.
Yeah, I mean, the card is pretty stacked at itself, so not that bad, that much. But for me personally, that was the fight I was looking forward to the most. So yeah, it kind of sucks to be honest. At least we still got the fight in a month, May 9th it's now booked for. So we got it in a month. So I'm happy for that. But yeah, it kind of sucks that we don't get it this weekend. But still a pretty decent card, I feel like.
Well, let's go to the main event. That is Yuri Prochka
Mm.
versus Carlos Ulberg. And again, we've been trying to figure out how good Carlos Ulberg is. He's 13-1, but you look at the record, and as you said, it's like, well, Jan Blachowicz is a nice win. Volkan Ozdemir is a nice win. Dominic Reyes is a good win, but is he ready for the elite? And this is the elite. So let's start off here with, do you believe in Carlos Ulberg?
No, not as a champion. I think he's a pretty decent fighter. He showed so far that he can hang with the elite. In my opinion, I still think that Jan Blachowicz should have beat him. I think in the fight, but he got the decision win there. But he knocked out Reyes, so now he's fighting for a title against Yuri Prohaska. Prohaska looked pretty bad in the round 3 fight in the first 2 rounds, and then retard Yuri showed up in the third round, and he got him out of there. I can't expect the same from in this fight. Probably Alberg will look pretty decent early on, try to keep the distance, how he always does, you know. And if Yuri doesn't get it his way, he will go full retard mode again. I'll pick Yuri any day in this fight. I think he has. I think he will be champion again.
Who does the UFC want? Because it's sort of for them, like they
Uh,
love Yuri Prochka. He just brings the action, but at the same time, Alberg is the new baby. He's like,
I,
oh, we can Pereira's leaving, but hey, look at this guy. He's almost only lost once. We could have some fun here. So, if you is the
I,
UFC gonna like do everything for Alberg, or are they going back to the samurai Yuri Prochka?
I feel like they're cool with both, you know. For Yuri, you can put him in almost every area because he's generally loved, you know. And for Alberg, he's perfect if he wins for the Australia or the New Zealand cards, you know, these Anzac cards to put on pay-per-view. So they'll win with both, I think, you know, whoever wins here. I don't think the UFC really has a preference. As long as it doesn't be Magomed Ankalaev, they're probably happy. You know what I mean? So but Yuri or Elberg, I don't think they mind too much. They are cool with both.
Am I crazy to think that Ulberg pulls this off? That he
You're not
sees what Khalil Roundtree did and goes, I can
if
knock him out.
if you were Adam right now, I would tell him like you're not crazy because you think that, but you're just crazy from yourself. You know, that's what I always say to Adam if he asks me a question like that. But I mean, it's possible, you know. I mean, it's not like I also think the odds are pretty close. You know, I think Yuri is a small favorite, but it's definitely possible, you know. I mean, we saw Khalil Roundtree almost beat Yuri Prohaska until he got knocked out by Yuri in the third round, you know. So why would Albert not be able to do that? But the thing is, like Yuri has that that mentality that if it doesn't go well for him, we saw it also in the Rakic fight, you know, when it didn't go well for him he can put on Rita Erie and go crazy and knock you out, you know, or stop you or whatever, you know. So he has that extra thing. If he cannot put that on against Alberg has a good chance to win as well, you know. It's a good fight. That's why we're intrigued by this fight, right? I want to see this fight for a long time. So, but I think Yuri is better overall. That's my opinion.
Well, this main card, this feels like a lot of people might get knocked out. So let's start with the co-main event. It is Paulo Costa taking on the professional Azamat Mirzakhanov. This feels like Costa's in a world of trouble. Mirzkhanov is just a guy who, since he got into the UFC, every time we see him fight, he seems to elevate. He started off with Teflon and Chewy, flying knee, Devin Clark, Dustin Jacoby, and then recently, knocks out Alexander Rakic with a power jab, not a right hook, a jab. So. Call me crazy. This feels a little bit like Dana White privilege. Hey, we're going to give you a former champ at 185. This gas tank really isn't that great. And yes, we want you to just finish Paulo Costa.
I mean, somehow Paulo Costa weaseled his way into a co-main event again. Unbelievable, right? Um,
I understand Marcel. He's a beautiful man, according to the ladies. I mean, you look at him, it's like, all right, I get it. It's for the female audience.
yeah, okay. I don't give a shit. Um, yeah, I mean, what can I say about this fight? You know, I expect Murzakanov to put a beating on him. To be honest, you know, unless he makes it like he stays from a distance and tries to pick him apart, which will be difficult for him. But I have not much to say about this fight. I think Murzakanov wins this fight, and so next week I can apologize to Costa because he won. You'll see it.
Well, we got a heavyweight fight that even you might approve of, which I know is rare. Josh Hockett, aka the All-American Badass, that trash-talking former college wrestler, NFL football player, and you could even argue just colorful character. Well, he wanted a big fight. He got his wish. He got a really big fight. He's jumping from Denzel Freeman to Curtis Blades. Do you approve? Or even are you looking at Josh and going, okay, you might have bit off a bit more than you could chew here, buddy?
Uh, Yeah, the thing is with Blades. Blades in his last fight against Kuniev didn't look good, but I'm here that Blades said that he was injured going into that fight. I believe him. I don't have a reason not to believe him. Hockett has looked good so far in the UFC, but that wasn't against quality opponents, to be really honest. I think if Blades is still in his A game, he beats Hockett probably by a 30-27 decision. If he's not on his A game anymore, Hockett has a chance to beat him, you know. But I cannot go Josh Hockett here, you know. I mean, I think he's a very decent prospect, but Curtis Blades is still world class in my opinion. I still pick Curtis Blades to win this. I'm going with decision win for Curtis Blades.
Who does the UFC want to win? Because you and I both know there's a obvious answer.
Bro, this is like number 5 or number 6 against no ranked. Who do you think the UFC wants to win? I mean, it's pretty
Josh Hockett.
obvious. Yeah, obviously.
And do you approve, or are you going, yes, you're gonna go down, you Dana White privilege little because
I
I
mean,
know every time there's a Dana White privilege guy, you're looking going, you need to go down. You
I
need
mean,
to
I
teach a
understand
lesson.
it. I understand they do it at heavyweight because heavyweight fucking sucks, you know? So I understand they do it at heavyweight, but at the same time, I don't think Curtis Blades deserves to fight somebody outside of the rankings. So I don't agree with it, but I understand what they're trying. You know, they try to get some new guys into the heavyweight rankings. We'll see, man, if he is good enough to beat Curtis Blades. I have my doubts, and not because I think Hockett is good, but I still think Curtis Blades is really good, you know?
Also on the main card, we got two more light heavyweights. Somehow Johnny Walker is still there in the UFC, despite the fact that, well, so you might look and go, huh. He takes on Dominic Reyes in a fight which seems like both guys sort of need this, or else they might be given their walking papers. I guess this is the big question. Who has more left in the tank, Reyes or Walker?
I would say who has a better chin.
And that's a good question.
This,
That's also a good
yeah,
question.
this fight can literally is a coin flip in my opinion. You know, Walker can knock Reyes out. Reyes can knock Walker out. You know, the thing is like Johnny's a little bit wilder than Reyes. You know, so Johnny can land a crazy punch, knocking him out, but at the same time, Johnny can be that wild that Reyes snipes him and knocks him out. So it's like I'm 100% going by knockout first round. If I have to give like a pick here, it's like 45, 55, 55% Reyes, 45% Walker. So I would pick Reyes, but it's like probably the pick I stay away from the forest I can. You know what I mean? It's that close. And both guys are good, don't get me wrong, but they're not really reliable anymore. You know what I mean? They're like very inconsistent. So I'm picking Reyes here to get the win, but man, I'm not sure at all. I'm not sure at all.
In the final fight of his career, Cub Swanson takes on Nate Landwehr in a featherweight scrap. I know you always tell me, hey, that you never bet on the guy who says this is his final fight, who's gonna retire. Is it could we see though another one of those just like Michael Kisa, he walks off into the sunset on his terms? Or do you feel this is gonna be Nate Landwehr ruining Cub's final fight?
Man, all my friends love Cub Swanson, right? So I mean, the guy is great, and I think this is a good opponent for him. You know, Nate Landwehr is also a guy who is fun to watch, but also inconsistent as hell. You know, so it's a winnable fight in my opinion for Cub. This one, it's an interesting fight as well. Um, I honestly think that Cup stops him in the second round by TKO. So I honestly think that Cup is able to get the win here. And man, wouldn't be cool for him, you know, to get the win in that fight. I hope he does. Nothing against Landwehr. I think he's pretty decent as well. But like I said, inconsistent, you know. And Cup looked good in this last fight against Billy Q, man. He looked really good. It's some time ago, but he looked good. Looking forward to this one, man. I think it's fun. This one is added to the main card. So yeah.
In the prelims, we got Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. Bellator never dies, as they say. A couple years ago, I would have taken Pitbull to just steamroll over Pico. Now, call me crazy, I'm going Pico over Pitbull.
UFCs know exactly what they're doing, man. They try to get Pico in the rankings as soon as possible by giving him Murphy. he gets knocked out by Murphy. You know what? We give him a second chance to fight Patricio Pitbull. I also think Pico wins, and I fully agree with you. If you asked me this one 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I'd probably pick a Pitbull. But Pitbull is kind of like on the older side now. Um, yeah, I gotta pick. Pick Pico here to beat Pitbull. Although I would love to see Pitbull win, man.
Randy Brown versus Kevin Holland in a battle for uh, welterweight relevancy. Two other guys who've been around the block and have traded wins and losses. Who do you like? And could this be Kevin Holland's sort of final fight?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably a very close fight. I feel like it's another interesting fight. It's a fun fight. I think. I feel like Randy Brown has more upside than Kevin Holland in this fight. And yeah, we're gonna see, man. I mean, the thing is, like, I'm really bad at picking Kevin Holland's fights. Because if I pick for him, he loses, and if I pick against him, he always wins. So don't tail me on this one. Um. I think Brown wins. I think he has more upside. I think the problem with Kevin Holland is always how does Kevin Holland wake up? Does he wake up and thinks like, let's go, I'm going to fight this guy? Or does he wake up like, oh, here we go again? I'm actually not feeling that way great, but yeah, let's do it again. It's always that. So I don't know, man, what to expect here, but I would pick Randy Brown in this one.
In a fight which I know you probably are going, this deserves to be on the main card. Tatiana Suarez takes on Lupita Godinez in probably a women's title eliminator at 115 pounds. We want to see Suarez sort of bounce back because the last time we both even agreed, like, yeah, you beat Amanda Lemos, so it wasn't what we expected. Is this the fight where she turns it back on, or does Godinez surprise us?
Man, I really like Godinez, but not in this fight. I think Godinez has like fight IQ during her UFC career, man. She has lost fights that she could have won if she fought differently. Um, I just think Suarez is too physical for her to fight. I think Suarez beats her with a decision unanimous. I think she wins at least one or two rounds, the first two rounds. Maybe then the cardio comes into play again, like often happened with Suarez, if she doesn't finish her opponent. But not enough probably for Godinez to come back into the fight. So, yeah, I think Suarez wins, but I'm not sad this is not on the main card because I don't think this fight is going to be very how do you say that? Very entertaining, to be honest.
And probably the best maybe action fight on the undercard. We're gonna have the return of Mateus Gamrot as he takes on El Gringo himself, Esteban Robovic. This is two guys who you look and they're never in a dull fight. This should be fun. I'm having a tough time picking a winner because I could, I'm leaning towards Gamrot, but I look at Robovic and go, he should be 5-1 in his UFC, career so far.
It's a horrible fight to pick, to be honest, because you got two completely different styles. You got Gamrot, who is like try to take you down, control you on the ground, going for submission, but mostly do the control time. And with the Ribovic, like he's trying to keep it standing and to knock you out. So it's basically like, does Gamrot get this to the ground? I think he definitely gets it to the ground, but can keep him there? It will be very like how do you say that? Difficult for Gamrot to withhold Ribovic for landing that knockout blow, which he's going to search for. Um, I think Gamrot probably gets the win by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ribovic knocks him out. I think it's possible, but I feel more confident picking Gamrot in this one.
Two prospects collide in Markel Medeiros taking on Chris Padilla. Medeiros is 11-1, Padilla is 17-6, but is 4-0 in the UFC. I know the UFC wants to really push Medeiros, but could this be sort of a trap fight for him?
It's like it depends. The thing is with Chris Padilla, I think he's good, but I feel like he's punching above his weight in the UFC so far. And it's maybe not fair to say, but that's how the way I feel. I feel like he's a very fun fighter to watch. He has done really good so far in the UFC, but is he really that amazing? As that a lot of people think. I don't know. He's now fighting Markel Medeiros. I, I've much more I think there's much more upside for Medeiros. He's young. He has looked pretty good so far. And I like him in this fight, to be honest. I think he can beat Padilla here. So yeah, I would pick him, man. I would pick Medeiros to win this fight but it won't be easy. Padilla's pretty good, pretty well rounded. So it won't be easy, but I would if I have to give you a pick, I'll pick Padilla here. Or I pick Medeiros here. I'm sorry, guys. I pick Medeiros.
Kevin Gastelum takes on Vicente Luque at 185 pounds. This is two guys who, we both thought they were going to be maybe better than they were. Luque, I thought at one point was going to be a welterweight champion. Then ran into Bilal Muhammad, and since then it's been well just all the way down. Gastelum is a guy who won the UFC contenders, the contender series. You know, did pretty well for a while. Took on, lost to Tyron Woodley split decision, and then the last couple of fights it's been just losing to Adesanya, losing Darren Till, losing to Jack Hermanson. Is this basically a loser leaves town fight where whoever loses this fight, the UFC goes, all right, it's time for you to move on?
I mean, did you really wanted to see Vicente Luque fight again after that Joel Alvarez fight? I really didn't, to be really honest, and I love Vicente Luque. If you look at Calvin Gastelum's biggest opponent has been the scale in his career. Let's be honest, and I love Calvin as well. Calvin is a real good dude, very friendly guy. But that's a big problem for him always been because he would be better at welterweight than he would be at middleweight, in my opinion. The thing is, now he's fighting actually a guy who's also a welterweight who went to middleweight, and that's Vicente Luque. I cannot pick Vicente Luque based on his last couple of performances. I think Vicente Luque was amazing when he was on the top of his game, but he's not there anymore. A lot of things have happened. Gastelum also not on the top of his game anymore, but I think he's much more game than Vicente Luque is right now. Um, I think Calvin wins the decision here. It says a lot that these two are fighting on the early prelims. I think the UFC is also like this is like the end of the line for both guys probably. But I think Gastelum will be able to win the fight.
And finally, the last prelim fight, Francisco Prado takes on Charles Radke at a middleweight scrap. Who Chuck Buffalo, and yes, he don't look past the record. He's 4-2 in the UFC. Is this one of those sneaky guys who we should start looking at, going, hey, welterweight, he could maybe sneak in there, the next year or so, because they're giving him almost a cupcake. They're giving him a guy that is 1-4 in his last fights. Like this sounds like a Charles Radke sort of Dana
I
White
mean,
privilege fight.
possible. This came together on short notice, right? Because Charles Radke actually was supposed to fight what's his name? Jose Henrique on this weekend's card, right? And Prado was without an opponent. They announced Alvidra's fight. Well, this was never offered. So yeah, this is a fight for Prado. It's just a bad matchup for him, because we've seen Prado being controlled on the ground by Jamie Mullarkey, for example. And even listen, Charles probably loves to strike with him as well. But if it goes to the ground, Charles will have a massive advantage, you know. So yeah, I think Charles wins this fight. I have him by submission in the second round. I think that's how it's going to be. But that's an interesting fight for sure, But I think Radke wins here.
Well, that's all the time we have, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we always have to have him on the show. I give you from MMA Tapology, from Eurosport UFC, and an all-around trash talker, nugget dropper, and MMA prognosticator. I'll give you Marcel Dorff. So, Marcel, else can fans check you out at? Where is your podcast? Where can fans check out the MMA podcast? Where else can fans check out your work at?
You can check me out on Big Marcel 24 on Twitter and Instagram. MMA Outsbreaker podcast with Adam Martin. We did it earlier today, preview and recap of last week's UFC and UFC 327 preview, obviously. What else? Mixed martial arts section on the Eurosport.nl website. And Chris, as always, thank you for having me. It's always fun talking to you. And let's hope we have some great fights this weekend.
I hope
And
so.
before, happy Easter to everybody.
Happy Easter to you too. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Marcel Dorff, always on a pleasure having you on the show. We come back. A lot more going on here. Only on it's Last Call. Last call to the alcohol. Only on the lastcallpodcast.com.